I'm standing in the middle of Rockstar's interpretation of Muscle Beats Gym in their 2013 hit game Grand Theft Auto 5. And this guy standing right next to me is one of the gym bros working out here. And as you can see, he is pretty damn buff. Actually, every single person in this gym is really damn buff. So what's their secret? Is this the best gym ever made? Today, we'll take a look at not just the people here, but also the gym itself. We'll discover just how much detail Rockstar has really put into the gym and the equipment around here, to determine if these places and their gym goers' physiques are actually any realistic at all, or if they just don't make any damn sense. And we're not just talking about if these places look and feel realistic, we're talking whether the equipment would actually function. If this gym right here lives up to realistic standards. If the NPCs could get their physiques from actually working out here. And if you were actually able to have a good, functional workout if you were to apply real-life logic to this video game area. One thing that immediately stands out to me when looking around this gym is the many types of benches around here. Something a little weird is going on here, but we'll get to that a little bit later. First, let's start by going over each of these benches individually. The first one being this bad boy right here, the incline bench. This is a staple in any gym, and typically I'd use it for, well, incline dumbbell bench presses. Maybe I'd even do sitting bicep curls. However, you could also wheel it over to a rack and do some incline barbell bench presses. Except this one is bolted to the ground, so we're not really moving it anywhere, which kinda sucks, but it isn't super unusual. And I'd imagine with this being an outdoors gym, it kinda has to be bolted to the ground in order to avoid it being stolen at night. Or if not, you'd at least have to wheel it inside somewhere and store it for the night so it won't get stolen. Okay, so, well, unfortunately, no incline barbell bench presses, but no biggie. At least we can still adjust the angle and do a bunch of other stuff on it, right? Well, no, unfortunately not. If we take a look down here again, there's actually no way to adjust the angle of this equipment whatsoever. It does have what looks like hinges down here, but unless you bring your own power tools to the gym and the bolts out and then lower the bench, screw new holes, and then the bolts back in place to adjust this thing manually, I don't see any other way to do it. Which does make me wonder a little. Why? Why not just have an adjustable bench that can hit a plethora of different exercises rather than have a specific bench set to an incline that is only able to be used for a limited amount of movements and exercises? Anyway, let's move on to this next bench. And this right here, well, it's a flat bench. Very similar to the incline bench, except this one is, flat. The reason why I know for certain that these two benches are two individual pieces of equipment and not just one of them angled at an incline and then bolted shut, and then this one just being laid out flat but still with the ability to incline is, well, because of the seat. Or rather, the lack of a seat on the flat bench here. The incline bench clearly has a separate cutout piece for the seat, whereas on this one, it's just completely flat, which means that this piece right here for sure doesn't have the ability to be angled at an incline. And it's not like this is completely unrealistic. This is an actual piece of equipment. It's just called a utility bench, and it can't be angled. It's just usually used for powerlifting to withstand extremely heavy loads with increased stability. But this is a bodybuilding gym within a small, confined area. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that you'd go out and spend extra money on specific pieces of equipment that takes up even more space than just a couple of adjustable benches would. However, that aside, you can still get a good pump going here. You can spam a bunch of dumbbell bench presses or some dumbbell chest flies. And next up we have the incline bench press again, but this time with whatever on God's green earth this thing is supposed to do. Is it some weird contraption for gym bros to lie down and give birth to a bunch of bodybuilding gym babies? Not quite. Is it some medieval torture device? Almost. It is actually an accessory for a bench like this that allows it to be used for a various amounts of leg exercises, which, at least in my eyes, does make it the equivalent of a torture device. And now this is where the realism sort of starts falling apart just a little bit. This attachment right here does actually exist, and it's a very good and cheap alternative to a leg extension machine at your home gym. And as you can see in this graphic right behind me, it actually turns your bench into not just a leg extension, but a plethora of different leg exercises, like hamstring curls or even the ability to do sit-ups on it as well. And isn't that just great? Well, no. Because you see, we still can't adjust the angle of this thing, so we can in fact not turn it into any of those things. So, once again, like, why? What is the purpose of this. You've just now turned your incline bench into a shitty version of a leg extension. Leg day is brutal enough as it is already. Please don't make me go through it with the worst possible equipment for it as well. And lastly, we have this bench right here, which, in case you hadn't noticed, this is the same as the flat bench, but again, this time with a rack on top of it. This kinda begs the question, why wouldn't you just make the damn bench movable so you can wheel it over to a rack and do some barbell bench presses instead? And hear me out, I know it's crazy, but maybe even make it adjustable as well. That way you can do barbell shoulder presses or even incline bench presses on the same bench. I guess that would make too much sense, so instead let's just buy 4 different pieces of equipment for very specific exercises. It makes even less sense when the gym also has a rack just standing here. I understand that it's probably supposed to be a squat rack, but like, come on, just wheel the damn bench over here, man. I know this isn't a real gym, but it's kind of pissing me off a little. Why can't I just move the equipment around? Make it easier for me, please. Anyway, we just talked about the squat rack, so let's take a closer look at it, shall we? At a first glance, this actually isn't too bad. We have a rack here with multiple points sticking out. I don't know what these are called, but where we can place the barbell on when we're done, meaning it's easier to use for people of various heights, supporting our long slenderman boys and even our fellow short kings. We even, at the bottom down here, have some safety guards. When training, it's essential that we train to failure, or at least very close to it, so that we trigger hypertrophy, which ensures muscle growth. But when you do squats, it can be quite scary to go all the way to failure without a spotter around. But with safety guards like these, you can just kind of let go and not worry too much about being crushed by the weight above you. Now, first when I looked at this, I was kind of annoyed a little bit that the weights were already on the barbell. Not unrealistic per se, a lot of people don't re-rack their weights after using the equipment. But then I looked around and there's not really any place for the plates to be racked anywhere. Usually there's a stand nearby with a bunch of plates on it, or it's built into the rack itself so that you can, well, rack the weights when you're done. But here, nothing. Which kind of makes me think that here in this gym, the plates come preloaded for you, and if you want it heavier or lighter than this, well, sucks to suck, man. Stay small, nerd. On top of that, what really grinds my gears here is that if we take a closer look here, the squat rack isn't actually bolted to the ground. Why? The squat rack is the one piece of equipment that does make sense to bolt to the ground, especially when it's a smaller, flimsier rack like this. I mean, imagine what happens if I try to awkwardly rack the weights after a hard, heavy set and this thing tips over. I know I said it grinds my gears, but it is really interesting and funny. They spend time bolting every other piece of equipment down, but not the rack? I don't have any hair, but I kind of wish I did right now so I could rip it all out again in frustration. Anyway, next up we have another multi-purpose machine. This time, one side is meant for chin-ups and the other one is meant for dips and leg raises. This is fairly straightforward, nothing too fancy going on here, except it kind of has these little handles on the side of it that are bent to the side. I've genuinely never seen this on any equipment before. If they were straight or kind of curved, it would make sense to me for like pull-ups. But bent like this, I can't possibly imagine what it would be used for. Maybe there's some sick-ass calisthenic movement or exercise that I've never heard of, but it remains a mystery to me. You could also technically do pull-ups on this machine here as well. The grips aren't super wide and the support beams are placed rather awkwardly in the middle, which would prevent you from getting all the way up and touch the bar with your chest, but it could probably be done. Luckily though, this machine is actually bolted down so you won't tip over and die when you do the exercise, which, hey, at least that's nice. Which brings us to the last machine of this gym, and it's the most raggedy ass version of an exercise bike I have ever laid my eyes upon. It's just a seat with a pair of pedals for you to bike on. You can't adjust the incline, you can't adjust the seat, you can't do nothing. You can't make the bike simulate going uphill, you can't change the speed, you can't track your miles. Nothing. It also has the most flimsy little handles to hold on to. I know most gym bros are allergic to cardio, but you don't have to make it less enticing to us than it already is. And this is, of course, also bolted to the ground, so phew, at least I won't be accidentally biking out of the gym to bumfuck Africa. Okay, so let's pause and actually take a look at some of the gym goers around here. It is safe to say that every man here is extremely jacked. And not only that, they're also, all of them, very lean. We're talking visible leg striations, teardrops in their quads, and defined calves. Their backs are also looking absolutely yoked. Their shoulders are really defined. You can clearly see their rear delts, their side delts, and their front delts. Their pecs are popping out. To keep it short, these guys aren't your average gym bro. These guys are bodybuilders. And not just ordinary bodybuilders. These guys have really good genetics too. Being this lean and defined while also having this much muscle mass on their body is no easy task for any natural gym bro. What is kind of interesting is that all of them more or less seems to have the exact same physique, which makes me think they all just have the same model. But nonetheless, this gives us a pretty clear image of these guys. For them to be able to look like this, they need a place and a gym where they're able to target every single muscle in their body, which means they need some really good gym equipment, which so far isn't looking amazing. Technically speaking, the equipment we've looked at so far would actually make do. To build muscle, you don't really need a ton of fancy and complicated exercises and machines. Essentially, what you really need, if you strip it down to its essential cores, is sleep, nutrition, and some way to work out your muscles hard by putting them under stress and tension and taking them to failure, or at least very close to failure. So, the question then remains, do we actually have the ability to train like that here? And well, let's keep looking and try and find out, shall we? Because we do have a couple more things to look at in this place to make sense of it all. But before we get to that, I want to talk about a few little funny details and things I found along the way. See, something the game actually did quite accurately is the floor. And I know what you're thinking. Cough, it's just the floor. But you see, when building a gym, the floor is actually kind of important. There's a few different options to aim for when building the floor of a gym, and the most commonly used ones is tiled rubber flooring or rolled rubber floor. And as you can see pretty clearly, in GTA 5 they went with tiled rubber flooring. The reason for rubber flooring is primarily for two different factors. The first one being that it's shock absorbent. When some testosterone-fueled Ronnie Coleman comes around and starts throwing around heavy-ass weight, you don't want your weights or your floor to get damaged in the process. The other reason is that it also lets you get a better grip and stance when standing on it for something like squats or deadlifts. One little issue though is that this floor seems to be quite thin, and you often see these floors being quite thick so that it has a better chance of absorbing the blow and not get damaged, either the floor or the weight, when you drop it. Another funny little thing I noticed is probably the most realistic thing about this place, and those are the bags. The shoes and equipment just laying around everywhere. When first looking around the place here, it did make me wonder, like, has any of the people actually ever been in a gym before? Because some of the decisions are a bit questionable, but then the bags and the equipment, the shoes lying all over the place, that it made me clear, yeah, they know. These guys know ball. The gym bags laying around everywhere, it genuinely got a chuckle out of me. And listen, I'll admit it, I carry my bag around with me at the gym. I've lost too many of those little locks for the locker rooms for me to count. But I've seen so many energy drinks or protein shakes left behind around every piece of equipment at the gym that seeing the same thing simulated here kind of made it feel like home, you know? It gave a sense of realism to the place that we're missing otherwise. So big props and kudos to the developers for doing that. It's pretty funny. Another observation I made is the staff, or lack thereof. There is no personnel here at all. And listen, this place looks dirty as all hell. But you'd think that at an outdoors gym, there would be more focus and more personnel to clean the area for that specific reason. But it seems like they've just completely given up instead. And also, who charges you to work out here? Is it free? I've not known any gym to just put out equipment and let you work out here for free, let alone in America, mind you. And last thing, what the hell is this building for? Is this the changing room? Is all the staff crammed in here and hidden like elves? It's literally never open, so I can't go in there and check myself. Is this where they hide all the plates and equipment? But if so, then why is everything bolted down when they can just wheel it in here at night? And why is it always closed off there? Is it being renovated? I have so many questions and I don't know how to answer them, except I kind of do. At the real Muscle Beach gym, it is actually a separate inside area, and it is indeed where all the equipment is stored. But in the game, they just decided to bolt all the equipment to the ground instead. All right, back to the gym. And next up we have, well, the dumbbell rack. I don't know if you can actually call yourself a gym without at least a couple of these. The rack itself is just like with the exercise bike, the most raggedy ass thing I've ever seen in my life. It looks like it's made out of cardboard. I've seen IKEA furniture higher quality than this. It also sticks out of this place like a sore thumb. Most of the equipment here has a certain vibe and aesthetic to it. The blue seats, the rusted vintage look of the equipment. And yet, This has none of it. It's just cardboard. And it's not even bolted to the damn floor like everything else is. But the most glaring issue here is, of course, the weights themselves. They're all the same. No different plates, no different weights. Nothing. It is these old school dumbbells where you can put on weights yourself. But just with the barbells earlier, there's no plates around anywhere that you can put on these dumbbells. So what do you do exactly? What is the point of these dumbbells if you can't change the weight on them? The gamer in me knows that the developers just didn't really give a shit or overlooked it or whatever. There's a million different explanations, but the gym bro inside of me looking and analyzing this play, it hurts my heart a little. And I know I haven't paid a membership to be here, but I already want a refund. I don't like being in this gym. But on top of all that, there's something even weirder going on around this place. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, we have one more thing to look at here. Because we also have this one last piece of equipment right here, helped by this big guy right here. This big guy is curling an easy bar. And why is it called that? I have no clue, but it's the one with the wiggly lines on it. I sometimes use these for bicep curls like he's doing here, or I clip it onto a cable tower for tricep pushdowns. If you have a big and wide one, you can also use them for skull crushers. They're really good for that as well. But what puzzles me is, where the hell did you get it from? Did he pull it out of his prison wallet? Did he sacrifice a protein shake to some golf baddies and summoned it here through ritualistic means? Where did it come from? Maybe when I'm not looking, they open up this building here like this secret chamber in Harry Potter, so everyone can go get their equipment except me. Anyway, in the end, it's all just video game magic, but it still annoys me a little that I can't go get this equipment myself or find a logical explanation to all the madness. So when the gym itself might not make a whole lot of sense when we dive into the specific details of it, what about this place right behind me? A couple of the beaches here does have some equipment available to the public, where I'm sure you do have to pay a fee or a membership or something to access the gym area. This place does actually seem like it's free and open for public use. And there is all types of different calisthenics and bodyweight movement type equipment here. But what about this place? Does this place make more sense than the gym area? Does this place explain why they're all so goddamn jacked? Well, let's take a quick look, shall we? First off, we have some pull-up bars here in various different heights. And the tallest one here does make sense to me, but as we move down, the smallest one is really damn low. I'm not sure if this is meant for kids or midgets or what exactly is going on here. Maybe there's some calisthenic movements that requires really low bars that I'm just not aware of. But at the end of the day, it's a pull-up bar. There's not a whole lot to dissect here. Although everyone here still insists on doing chin-ups on it for whatever reason. Also, I'll be the first to admit here, besides like dips and pull-ups, I don't do a whole lot of calisthenics, so if I get any of this wrong or if there's anything I'm missing, let me know down below. I love all of it, so inform me. So when I say you can do pull-ups and chin-ups here, throw in muscle-ups and the 17 other different variations of a pull-up in there as well. Then we have these parallel bars right here, which I'm sure are good for dips and any other gravity-defying sick-ass moves you guys come up with. But I'm more interested in these. And not because there are these circus rings that I've seen acrobats do tricks on at circuses when I was a kid, but because they're so goddamn high up in the air. These are not meant for short kings. Even Franklin looks like a midget when standing beneath these. Are you supposed to levitate up there? Like, I know you guys defy gravity and all, but like, goddamn, leave some women for the rest of us, please. And lastly, on this beach, we have this boxing thing. This is another form of cardio, so being in the vicinity of this does make me physically ill. But besides that, I gotta say, again, what's up with it being so goddamn high up in the air, man? Aren't you supposed to do boxing like this? And not boxing like this? Besides maybe some height hiccups here and there on some of the equipment, this does actually looks pretty good to my non-calisthenic eyes. I'd have maybe expected some monkey bars or something like that, but besides that, it's pretty good, I think. Now, I mentioned something being a bit off earlier, a little weird and wacky. And I don't know if you've noticed in the footage at all, but when people are working out here, it's either full of men or full of women. There is no mixing going on here at the gym. And when out here on the beach at the calisthenics area, it's the same story. Either it's full of women, mind you, these are absolute units of women. Look at this woman right here. She could crack me like a stick. She frame mocks me by just existing. It's actually wild. If you look at a lot of the people's physiques around here, they're either genetically gifted and locked in like there's no tomorrow, or they're maybe a little anabolically assisted on the side. But this woman right here is definitely a tank. God damn. Anyway, that wasn't the point. The point is, this area out here is either 100% filled up with men or 100% filled up with women. no mix. Like, I don't know if there's some sort of segregation going on out here or what the lore is exactly. In reality, I'm imagining it's just some weird game thing where they made a bunch of women and then a bunch of men working out, and they just kind of had either one or the other, or I've just had a freak accident while recording all of this footage. But it's still just a really weird, funny, quirky little detail. You know, maybe it's like a territorial thing. I did notice that there were a little bodybuilding stage outside the gym, so my headcanon has kind of become that they meet out here every morning and have a little pose off for the territorial rights to the gym. You know how in San Andreas you have to go around and spray paint other gangs' graffitis in order to take over an area? Here, it's the bodies, the posing that does the talking for you. Very gym bro-esque. So, well, if the citizens were to work out here at this gym in GTA, which they don't really have any other options, there's one other place that I could find, which is this building right here behind me, but I can't enter it. But when looking through the windows, no one is here, and it has nothing but a couple of treadmills inside. But if they were to actually go here and work out at the Muscle Beach gym in GTA, would they actually be able to get as jacked as they are? And I'd have to say no to that. The calisthenics area is quite cool, and you can do a lot with your own body weight. But unless you're extremely genetically gifted, you'll typically need more than your own body weight to get this damn jacked. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely. And at this gym here, we are lacking some big options. We have the basics, some dumbbells, a squat rack, and although they're incredibly weird and wacky, we do have some benches here, and I guess we also have a leg extension. Technically, the gym does cover all the basics. We can train legs by doing squats and mid-leg extensions. We can do calves by doing calf raises at the squat rack. For our back, we can do deadlifts and pull-ups. I would like to see a row movement though. For our shoulders, we can do overhead presses. For our rear delts, we can do flies on the flat benches. We can do lateral raises with dumbbells for side delts. For our chest, we can do bench presses, either laying down or with an incline. We can do dumbbell flies on the flat bench. We can do skull crushers for triceps. All of this is to say that yes, technically, we can cover it all. It truly doesn't take fancy equipment and special training techniques from John, personal trainer himself on TikTok, showing you to bend over backwards, dislocate your shoulder at a 21 angle degree on a sunny Monday for optimal shoulder optimization. But it still gets a no from me. So what gives? And well, it completely lacks the ability to progressively overload on pretty much any exercise. There's only one type of dumbbell, and there's no weight plates around anywhere. For me to really give it the pass here, I'd need to be able to up my weight when I push myself hard at the gym so that I can keep growing my muscles. I mean, sure, you could just do more reps, but at a certain point, you'll have to increase the weight in order to see the results that these guys are having. So, in conclusion, I'd say that while the gym in GTA 5 does a good enough job of having the illusion of being a fine gym, when you really slow down and take a final look at some of the details around here, it does start to fall apart quite a bit. But that is one of the many beauties of video games. It tells a story in so many different ways. The little details that some developers go the extra mile to add, like writing down the weight of some plates like these, but then not doing it on other plates like these. Making 4 different unique bench models for all of these instead of just making one adjustable bench and using that all of the place. It's so much fun to go around and take a look at all of these things and see what details are there and which ones are missing. But at the end of the day, if I were to go to a gym like the one we have here in Vespucci Beach in real life, I'd not come back. Not only is it dirty as hell and has no employees working here, it's also missing a lot of equipment that I'd consider mandatory for me to justify spending a monthly membership fee. And thus, I must conclude that this gym isn't all that realistic, and also these guys' physiques doesn't make any sense because they don't have anywhere else to work out. If you've stuck around this long, then consider subscribing if you haven't already. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. Join the Discord, check out my X and Instagram. Also, if you happen to like my content, then consider becoming a member. I'm kind of getting close to being able to do this part-time while studying at university, which is a wild thing to say. So if you want to help out and have your name appear at the end of future videos, then consider joining the membership. Yeah, that feels very weird to say, but it's pretty cool. Thank you, guys. I'm Koff. It was a pleasure, and thank you for watching.